So this man wants to be eaten, and I don't mean this in a wrong way, but there's no right way to put it. He actually wants to become somebody's dinner. A little trigger warning before we continue. This video is going to contain a bit of suicidal ideation, extreme depression, and other people, if you know what I mean. Basically, fishmonger have been having this fetish for a very long time. Now, while you might think this is the major problem, it is not even the beginning of it. The problem is, 1, what arouses such a nefariously twisted desire in a person? 2, who would want to eat another person? And 3, why did they want it filmed? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the story of 36-year-old Nguyễn Xuân Đạt. I'm not too sure of the pronunciation, so I'm just going to call him Dat, and the Vietnamese butcher. Before we continue, have you ever observed ants? Maybe when you were little. You've probably seen how organized they are, marching in perfect lines, carrying food 10 times their size, working together without ever questioning why. They have one single driving force: purpose. Good. Do not forget that, because we are coming back to it. You see, to understand why Dat wanted to become a bowl of soup, we need to understand what was happening in his head. Social media accounts belonging to Dat were hacked by this Facebook group called Ocinet and Cybercrime Investigation, and they found out that Dat faced a critical level of depression. One message he sent to a friend that said, "Not only am I ugly, but I'm also full of diseases. I can't afford to live freely like normal folks. I've depended on my parents for most of my life. I truly am a prisoner of my own fate." He felt completely worthless. He believed he was a burden. And slowly, his depression twisted into something much darker. Dat began to believe that the only way he could have any value was becoming someone's meal. He wanted his body to be useful after death. He wanted his flesh to give someone sustenance. Ladies and gentlemen, this single obsession will consume the last years of this man's life. And this answers our first question: purpose. What is our purpose? You see, like the ants we observed in our younger years, curious about their lives and the reason for their peculiar behavior, purpose is a driving force of our existence. And to fulfill this purpose, Dat dove into a bottomless pit of the dark side of the internet, one of which was the manga story called Applicant for Death, where in one very detailed scene, a man has his head cleanly by a woman with a katana, and that, using the social media handle Dat Beheading, requested that it be translated into Vietnamese. Unfortunately, no matter how hard Dat searched, he just could not find a woman willing to end his own life until he met Chong. So about Chong, not his real name by the way, he was a man on a mission. His desire was to unalive people and then consume them. Now, why he had this desire is still not known, but by some unexplained fate, he got in contact with Dat on a dark site. According to messages found between the two, Dat seemed to have been excited, finally finding a person who would bring this long dream, dark fantasy of his to reality. Unfortunately, Chong would waste Dat's time, and in messages between the two, Dat continually begged to be eaten. Finally, Chong took out time from his extremely busy schedule and the two decided to meet. Now, from the very disturbing videos circulating on the internet, it is stated that this might have not been Chong's first time. In fact, previous videos show other victims pleasuring themselves before requesting for the fall of the butcher knife at the exact point of their climax, meaning that case was not as unique as you might have thought. But because of what happened next, it was. You see, the disturbing video showed Dat last moments, but not the execution itself. In fact, in the video, Dat requested for the camera to be turned off, and all we see next is a picture of Chong, half face masked, standing in what appears to be a bathroom with the severed head of Dat. At this point, it's important to know that regardless of permission, murder is still murder and is not accepted in any country of the world. Only medical practitioners under very specific conditions are allowed to pull the plug. Also, we truly do not know if Dat changed his mind when the camera went off. Regardless, the truth of the situation was clear for all to see. Dat was no more. Allegedly, Chong proceeded to make several dishes out of Dat's body. So Dat did indeed get a sick, disturbing, dying wish. But the story does not end there. You see, Chong had released videos of Dat's death to their online depraved community, selling them to turn a profit. Even more disturbing, he began using Dat's account to hunt for, dare I say, fresh meat. Now, while the authorities did not initially take this case seriously, the internet did. Unfortunately for Chung, he had not been as discreet as he had hoped. The pictures and videos he released would be the breadcrumbs that would lead to his downfall. You see, members of the Osinet group, having help from a whistleblower who belonged to that same dark online community, traced that old accounts as well as Chung's activities and found Chung's original Facebook account. However, what really sold the deal was the details. The mark on Chung's forehead, the tattoo on his arm, and even the scar on his leg. These were all places that had appeared in the video he released. There was also the tracksuit he wore that looked just like that of his son in a picture on his Facebook page. It is not known whether it's the same tracksuit or a similar one, but all the breadcrumbs had led them to this man, and the evidence was just too much of a coincidence to ignore. But the shocking part is still yet to come. You see, further investigation found that Chung was actually a retired deputy head managing a market department, a respected family man, a true man of the society with a very, very sick craving for human flesh. Of course, the Vietnamese government could not deny the facts before them, as the case had blown up on the internet. Chung, who is actually Đoàn Sáng, real name, was arrested and charged with manslaughter. But the real mind-boggling question is this: if that could be so inflicted with depression that he searched for his purpose in a bowl of soup, does that mean there are other people out there? Secondly, are there others like Đoàn Sáng taking advantage of people like that for their own sick, twisted desires instead of helping them? Let me know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.